Today's webcast will also be archived at facilitiesnet.com/webcasts. Okay, now we're on to the exciting part of the event, our panelists today. We've got Kyle Pfeiffer with Salto and Cooper Briscoe with Eagle Eye Networks. Kyle Pfeiffer leads Salto's North America's healthcare solutions business practice, and he's focused on aligning innovative access control technologies with the ever-evolving needs of healthcare. It's an industry he understands across multiple facets. His passion lies in creating more effective, efficient workflows and establishing secure workplace environments. Together with Salto, he's on a mission to introduce new technologies and products that help keep staff and patients safe while enhancing the overall healthcare experience. Cooper Briscoe is an industry veteran with experience across many areas of the physical security field. He's held roles in operations, sales, product management, and product marketing, and now leads the global marketing organization for Eagle Eye Networks, a cloud-based video surveillance provider delivering solutions to some of the biggest challenges facility managers face throughout the use of cutting-edge technology. But don't just take my word for it. We're going to hear from each of these speakers themselves. Kyle, welcome to the event, and please tell us a little bit more about you and Salto.
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction there, Wendy. Yeah, my name is Kyle Pfeiffer. Been with Salto Systems now for a little over 2 years. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and really Salto has just been a great solution for access control. We are a little bit of a disruptor when it comes to access control. So even though we are a great enterprise solution that's a great ecosystem from software to readers to hardware to unique products, we decided to do something very unique, what we call data on card. And that's really changed how access control can be utilized in facilities and communities all across the world, really globally. Salto has been around for 20 plus years, so we have a long history of providing great quality solutions that really help secure buildings, facilities, and just the team of people that are working for these companies as well.
Thank you for that, Kyle. We're going to come back to you in just a minute with a couple of questions, but Cooper, I'd like to officially welcome you to the conversation as well. We'd love to hear more about what's happening over at Eagle Eye.
Thanks, Wendy. Much appreciated. Like you saw in my bio there that Wendy read, I just like to highlight for people, I have been within the security industry looking at keeping buildings, people, and assets safe for, I'm in my third decade now. But I like to highlight that I've held many different roles because it's given me an opportunity to work with all sorts of different people across all of the different elements of security, right, that you were thinking about as a facilities manager. Eagle Eye Networks specifically is a cloud-based AI-driven video management system, but we're even at a point now where we're talking, really, we're an AI safety and security system. And one of the things that we tout is we are open, we work with anybody, and we will happily integrate with any new technology out there without putting you through the ringer, forcing you to pay money, forcing you to wait on a 12 to 16 month timeline. And one of our strategic partners, obviously, is Salto, among some others on this call. So really excited to be on this panel today and really talk to you about all of the changes that are really starting to take place in the world of facilities management, brought about by new technology, and a lot of that being AI leaning. So the hope here is that as Kyle and I work through things with Wendy today, we're going to hit some topics that are going to spark questions, and you're going to engage and interact with us. That really becomes the key here. Kyle and I do not want to just talk at you for the next hour here with Wendy, okay? We want to hit some topics and really get you to interact with us because we think it can be more valuable that way. So on behalf of Wendy and Kyle, I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity being here today, and we're excited to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cooper. And everybody, you heard him. Let's get those questions in whenever they come to mind. We'll keep looking over to that panel to see what's coming in, and we'll tackle as many as we possibly can. But I get to ask the first question. And Kyle, I'd like to ask it of you. You were talking about the disruptive role Salto plays in the market. Where are you seeing trends right now? What's happening across the access control and the biometric space that you can talk to us more about?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. Thanks for bringing it up. Historically, we all know access control has rising needs that always have evolving technology as security changes and people figure out ways around that security. So historically, we've seen credentials change. We've seen the way that we utilize credentials that are coded to an individual versus, the historically swipe or codes that are put on credentials. We've seen dual factor authentication. We're now seeing smartphones that are using codes and Face ID to unlock the smartphones, where the credential can now live on the phone that's more secure. We've also seen fingerprint scanners and iris scanning and et cetera. So we've definitely seen that, but typically the trends that we're seeing that I'm excited about is it's the race to touchless access, meaning credentials can't get lost because they're now a part of who you are as a person. They're harder to copy. They have their own unique algorithms for security. They can't just be mass copied between systems, and it's a lot harder to hack. So what that means is, for us, we have our XS4 face, which is face recognition ultimately at the end of the day. It's extremely UI friendly for the users. It doesn't have to change the behavior of trying to gain access into a facility. It also has a liveness, detection, where you basically can see if it's a human or see if it's AI. So it's a very simple product and makes enrollment very easy to utilize. It's very user friendly. Also, we're seeing technology that we're seeing across the board, like with intercoms and being able to utilize technology that already exists, or we even have sensors that allow you to determine if somebody's in the room or not just through the lock, but also for controlling the thermostat or controlling the lights and allowing you to utilize that whole ecosystem, not just for security, but for a more eco-friendly system that allows it to go. So trends, really, it's a race to touchless access. That's where we're going, which is really exciting for Salto.
Absolutely. And I imagine the end users piece of it is really, it's hard to underestimate the impact that's going to have.
Yep.
Cooper, let's talk a little bit about AI. You spoke to it very specifically just a few moments ago. It's a phrase that can strike fear into an FM's heart. It can also be one that is really still an unknown, and other people might say, well, it's overhyped. It's hard to understand. Where are you seeing real examples of applications where problems are being solved with it? Can you put that in context for us?
I can, and I actually want to start by, let's talk about what AI isn't, okay, in the world of security and facilities management, because, I'll even roll the tape back here a little bit further. Eagle Eye has been a cloud-based company since its inception, and there are some inherent advantages to cloud. And we've been telling this story for, pushing 15 years or so in terms of facility management and the access control systems and the video management systems that you're using. And a lot of people started out their world saying, well, I don't trust the cloud. I saw there was a celebrity photos that have been hacked and shared with people. And then you talk to those people and say, great, who do you do your banking through? Okay, Chase. And do you have an app on your phone? All right, so you do trust the cloud. That is the starting point. And so I want to talk about AI today, not just about some of the problems that it's starting to solve, but to really dispel some myths and then piggyback that onto some of the problems that it's solving so that you understand. So first and foremost, I usually start and talk to end users and say, AI is not ChatGPT, right? In the world of security, right? As Kyle's, putting a smile on his face, laughing at that, what can the access control system do intelligently and really importantly, proactively, along with video? So I start by saying AI is not ChatGPT. Some people argue that AI is just as has a starting point in things like doing a spell check in a Word document. Isn't that AI that is searching for something and trying to proactively identify errors before they go out the door? So when we talk about AI, and specifically from the video management standpoint, I want everybody to kind of put their mind frame in the sense that you have a day job. You go home at night, but that facility is still there and the cameras don't clock out. The cameras now have the ability to have intelligent AI added either to the camera itself, or what we do is we will partner with people adding AI to the camera, but also supplement that by having our own AI within the cloud. And what does that mean to you? It means that these cameras are slowly shifting from being something that is reactive to being something that can proactively help you solve problems. So let's bridge that gap a little bit. Reactive is the world that we came from. As a facilities manager, you're on this call and there is, you arrive at work, there is a broken window, there's glass on the floor, and what do you look for from your access control system or your video management system? You go back in time and you look to find a way to say, who was the person that did the thing, right? That's really kind of the world we have come from. And frankly, many of you are on this call saying that's the world I'm in right now. So AI in the world of Eagle Eye Networks actually began by solving one of the biggest problems for you as a facilities manager, and that is, how do I go find out what occurred overnight while no one was here? And so we introduced something called Smart Video Search, and it gives you the capability across all of your cameras and all of your locations to just use natural language and type something in that says, hey, we know there was a bad guy that left and he was wearing a black shirt and blue pants. Let me search for anybody with a black shirt and blue pants. That's AI across these cameras helping you be more efficient at your job. The other thing that AI can do is I'd say show of hands if this were an audience, but there are people on here that know the concept of scrubbing video, and that is really just rolling back in time, sometimes at 2x, 4x, 8x, to find out what happened. AI is now giving you the capability to save yourself time and more effectively and efficiently go find out the thing that happened or the person you're looking for. And so, Wendy, I could go deeper and deeper and deeper, but I want to start bridging the gap. That is the starting point of how do we take cameras that have the same ability to see things that we do and teach and train those cameras to help identify things, save us time, and then more importantly, solve problems or potentially proactively thwart the problem before it takes place. And so I'll pause there for a minute and Wendy, hand it back to you because there are a million more examples past that. Yeah. But I think kind of that evolution and bridging the gap of where we've come from is a good starting point to where we're going.
Definitely. I think evolution is the word there. And I'm going to actually go back to Kyle because you used the word race. So we've got an evolution happening that technology is definitely supporting, but you or Salto as an organization is on that race to touchless access. So how do we kind of take what technology evolution is offering us, Kyle, and where are you seeing these trends further evolve and how are we bringing everybody forward with that?
Yeah, that's another great question. And ultimately, one of my favorite sayings that I've ever heard and I use to this day is you're only as good as the data that you have. And so that's we're able to ultimately to collect data quicker as we benefit with technology. And I think we can all agree that we're benefiting with AI. Now, where that level of where we're benefiting differs. Some people, like Cooper said, are just using ChatGPT. Well, if you're just using it that way, you're kind of in the past. We're running at a faster pace with AI and what it's doing for organization and ultimately collecting that data. So utilizing the technology that's in place right now is something that Salto wants to do to help us with that data. Ultimately, we're trying to create a simple ecosystem where everything works together. And as Cooper mentioned, we have an integration together with our cloud-based solution as well. But it's those partnerships. It's utilizing everything to make life simpler, but then to collect that data. And that's where the trend is really going, so that when you come in and you look at your system, it's telling you what you need to address that day. It's telling you what you need to focus on versus it just being, well, let me go look at the security logs or the wellness check logs or whatever it is that you're using access control for. It's presenting, here's your risks, here's your problems, and it helps you to move quicker. And that's where the data can be really powerful. And so that's what we're seeing with these trends, how they're evolving very quickly is that, again, that ecosystem of technology that you can utilize at your fingertips. And it's just making it more user-friendly. It's not as hard and complicated as it used to be historically. So,
yeah, it's interesting to kind of circle back that good data. It really does contribute to those systems learning, Cooper, like you were talking about. That video is not just sitting in one space and time. It is now learning and helping provide those solutions with that data supporting. That's interesting. I want to also go back to the ChatGPT line, and guilty as charged. I definitely use it from time to time, but I use a free platform, right? I'm not investing in the next level of ChatGPT. This is an investment. Our audience knows, and our audience has budgets. Cooper, I want to talk to you about, when it comes to investing in this kind of technology to increase efficiency, efficacy, security across an enterprise. What are some effective ways to justify those investments in this kind of technology? When you're talking to your leadership, when you're talking to the finance team, what kind of messaging should be part of that?
Yeah, I think it's great, right? I mean, bridging the gap to where we are today and the conversations that you're going to be having tomorrow is ultimately, it's completely changing the way that you're going to work with your professional integrators. Okay, so I'll give you this example, right? From an Eagle Eye standpoint, from a video management system, we are having fewer conversations like we used to in the past, where we would get on the phone and say, okay, great. What's the size of your facility? Where do we need cameras? Do you have bandwidth concerns? Do you want to store video locally or in the cloud or a hybrid version? And we're starting to solve business problems that are even crossing over outside of security. Okay, so the biggest thing that I would use to start to go justify this is, look, we're changing from reacting to proactively identifying things that could help us save big money. Meaning, I'll give you an example. There are now AI-driven gun detection solutions. We've just launched one recently, okay? We don't have the ability to detect a gun hidden in a backpack, but that gun technically is not a threat until it's been brandished. When a gun is brandished, it's a big deal. So there are solutions out there, some using AI, that can do things like gunshot detection, which is using audible cues and signals to identify directionally where that gunshot occurred. But I'm probably not the only one thinking as I say this, that once the gun has been fired, we're already in a pretty bad situation. So one of the things that we're doing is we're saying proactively you can implement with existing cameras that you already have, gun detection, and AI is watching from every single camera that you want to turn on to help with proactive gun detection. When a gun has been detected, not in a holster, because again, that's not a threat, but when a hand goes on that gun, now it is identified as a threat. So shifting from reactive to proactive gives us the ability to potentially save valuable seconds in an emergency type of situation. And so knowing that we have the capability today through AI to see that if someone walks in a facility and pulls out a gun before a human ever saw them, that we can trigger alarms, we can trigger talk-down notifications, we can send an immediate notification via email or SMS message to a pre-established list of contacts. We're sending it through to a 24/7 professional monitoring center. What we have done is we have potentially saved 20, 30 seconds, a minute in an emergency type of situation. And so the point I want to illustrate is we're not having conversations anymore about this video system can find the footage or the video, can share the video, do it securely. We're now starting to have conversations with end users like you around what your biggest problem is. I'll give you one more example. Sorry, I know I talk a lot, Wendy. That's just who I am. One more example is this. You might have a parking lot that after hours, you've got a physical security guard that you're monitoring, okay? You're paying that security guard potentially $50,000, $75,000 or more per year to monitor your parking lot after hours. We now have the capability through AI to proactively look for things within that parking lot. If a car drives by, we can ignore it. Doesn't matter. Don't waste time. Don't create noise, and don't send me an alert if a car drives by. But the second a person gets out of that car, AI now has the capability to say, whoa, we're after hours. We're in a car dealership, as an example, or a hospital parking lot. Why is this person getting out of their car? We can choose to have AI proactively alert us and even send that notification to a professional monitoring center. And so when we talk about how do I justify it, It's those examples to say we're no longer finding the bad guys after they've already stolen a catalytic converter. We are actually finding people and identifying to local security, law enforcement, et cetera, that there could be a crime that will take place soon. And that shift to proactive engagement completely and fundamentally changes the conversation that you're now having. It is no longer about replacing this video management system with another video management system.
Right.
It's now about what can AI do to actually save us time, save us money, or help solve problems that weren't traditionally viewed as security problems. That's what I love and why I'm so excited with what AI is bringing to the world of video and security and facilities management.
You used a word that I think is really important. We've talked about disruption. We've talked about emerging tech. We've talked about those things, but you used the word convergence. And I think it's that convergence of physical and digital, or digital, for in this case, AI and physical security. Kyle, you had touched on earlier, I think, also a convergence of that physical and digital identity piece. So let's talk a little bit about how that convergence is impacting our industry and the access control aspects of securing facilities.
Yeah, so ultimately, I'm going to kind of touch on these a little bit separately. Physical, you know, kind of what Cooper was saying, proactive access and emergency. I love that, proactive, right? So things like gun detection and things like that ultimately allows us with our tech partners to go physically a lot quicker and do things like lockdown modes where you can, with facility or a campus, you can quickly, with a push of a button on a cell phone device or just wherever you have that, makes it really quick just to deny access a lot quicker to users maybe that are new to the campus or they or previously allowed and granted access and you want to end their access immediately. And so having emergency response very quickly is crucial when you're talking about physical security. More on the digital, that's a whole new world that we're all kind of exploring together, because ultimately going back to touchless credentials, right? It's more convenient. It makes it easier for a user to gain access without having to change the modes in which they're being granted access. But ultimately, there are a new set of issues that must be addressed, because as AI is evolving and technology is changing, we also have to factor in the fact, and I think we've all seen videos on YouTube or just online social media where we're like, is that real or is that AI? And that plays into the world of access control, because there is voice cloning, there is video cloning. And so ultimately, we have to be able to see if this is a genuine person or is this an artificial impersonator trying to gain access. And that's really where we have to be a little bit more careful and cautious with digital identity. But the benefit is we all have unique systems, we all have unique algorithms. So as far as mass cloning, it's going to be a lot harder to do that, but we have to incorporate both physical and digital together so that we have a dual layered defense strategy going on where we're gaining access and then there's liveliness detection, which is a lot easier than historically, you know, when you had like a lost card or a lost fob. It's easy to just take that fob and then go around and impersonate somebody and you can't detect it, versus AI can now say, okay, if I'm using my face, is this truly Kyle or is this some digital version of Kyle, and be able to quickly detect those impersonators. So it's improving, but we do have to make sure that we're checking all the boxes and answering all the questions to make sure that a facility is truly secure and we're not able to basically take those things and just use them how we want to. So working together basically to provide ideal security as tech changes with the times is really a focus that we have to make sure that we're implementing into our system and our solution and our partnerships with different technology as well.
I appreciate that response. And I'd also like to say I appreciate some questions that are coming in from our audience. One I'm going to ask the two of you came from James. He said, looking ahead 5 years, which area, security, space management, maintenance, or sustainability do you believe will see the most transformation from AI, and why? So, Cooper, let's start with you. You've got 4 choices. Which one is AI going to have the most impact on? Security, space management, maintenance, or sustainability? And back up your choice with reasoning.
Yeah, no problem. First off, James, that's a great question. And I hope as we keep talking through this today, you'll start to see that I'm going to give you that political answer and say it's a little bit of everything. Maybe sustainability on the lower end of that. But again, what I want people understanding is I've given you a couple examples thus far, kind of this thing I talked about of monitoring a parking lot after hours, right? I've given you an example of gun detection. But what we haven't really talked about is what, when we talk about AI is something that is give me time and enough training, and through generative AI, we can solve any problem. That is the thing that I want you to take away from this. So if you're a facilities manager, I don't want you to think about what Kyle's doing and what I'm doing at Eagle Eye as a straight security thing anymore, right? You now have an opportunity. For example, if you were to come to me and say, Cooper, we really need AI to send a notification for every single time someone with green shoes enters the building. We live in a world now where we can develop that and roll that out to you in a matter of months, okay? That's what generative AI is giving us all the capabilities to do. So I want to just open the horizons here and give you one more example. Let's say that concierge service or VIP attendees at your location should trigger an alarm bell for somebody, should let people know when they arrive on site. Well, AI has the capability to identify someone based upon their face. So before I go further, I am not talking about tapping into an international database. This is, I want to go find Wendy Dietzler and type in Wendy Dietzler, and then here she is, and I have all of her PII. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the cameras have the ability to take a vector profile of someone's face and identify that person so that when they arrive at a facility, you can be proactively notified of their arrival, okay? We've got AI to do license plate recognition. So that could be security, but it could also be something like, I want a whitelist of people that when their car arrives at the facility, not only do I want it to open a gate, that is an example of an integration to an access control system, but I want it to eliminate their badge, open up a gate, let them into the parking lot, and also send a Slack notification to my VIP concierge people that want to know that this VIP has now arrived on site. That is all capable with AI today. As I'm working with credit unions, for example, check fraud, unfortunately, at least in the States, continues to be a major issue. Well, it's very common that if someone is doing check fraud, they don't go to one location. They go to one location and then hit the next and the next and the next. Well, we now have the capability to flag them. We can flag an individual that has done something sketchy in the past or been identified as a serial check fraudster. That person might be successful the first time at the first branch. But once we flag that individual and set up notifications, now what AI is doing is saying as soon as this person gets out of their car and their face is identified by a camera, we can take and alert local security, a branch manager, and we can identify this person as a potential threat. Right. So again, what did we do? That's not necessarily security. That's not somebody walking into the building with a gun or trying to break in after hours. It's somebody that is potentially posing a threat, and AI is now giving us the capability to be smarter about it. So think about packages that have been left out. Right. We're working with companies that if a rag is left on the floor at a restaurant or a quick serve location after hours, they want to flag those things. And it gives them the ability to identify things in advance. So James, I love the question, and I hope just me rattling off a few of these examples lets you know that the conversations that Kyle, myself, and your integrators are starting to have with end customers are no longer simply about security. I'm literally walking into discussion saying, what is the biggest problem that you have? And I'll go one step further with the banking example. Hook and chain theft of ATM devices costs tens of millions a year for even regional credit unions. And each time one of those is stolen, it's more than $250,000 exclusive of the cash in the machine.
Wow.
So why aren't we building analytics to say that if someone ever backs up a truck or a vehicle directly to an ATM after hours or during certain times, we want to start flagging? So again, not necessarily reactive security, but examples that tell you you can solve bigger problems today with the use of AI through some of these cameras. So think more broad than traditional security is my message.
I like that. And politically speaking, you nailed it. Really good job, Cooper, right across all the boards. Kyle, I'd like to hear your take on that, but I'm going to layer in another question because I think it's what we're hearing, Cooper, what you're saying is, all of those categories are going to be impacted by AI, and it speaks to a broader opportunity in front of us rather than slicing and dicing along maybe what we have, we had been viewing these issues as. So Kyle, think about that, where you see some of these impacts happening, but I'm going to layer in something else that Cooper brought up and that James, I think it might be the same James, good questions today, James, was asking about integrating those legacy building systems with this newer smart technology. How do we make sure we are harnessing all the benefits while, working in existing spaces and systems and things like that? So Kyle, I'm going to let you unpack all that.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions.
It is a lot.
Number one, I think James politically did a great job of answering that first question that James had. And I agree with everything he said, right? It is something ultimately that, security, space management, maintenance, or sustainability, it's going to impact everything. Ultimately, it already is impacting everything in our personal lives and our business lives. And so I'll just leave James' answers to that. But to the other question, when you're talking about integrating legacy building systems, there's always going to be a number of hurdles. Number one, culturally, is the community willing to make that change? Some people are very stuck in, we want to do things this way. I mean, I still get asked, can we have mechanical key override if we still want it? And I'm like, do you really want it? Because it's not that secure. And their answer is, yeah, they still really want it. So they're still kind of hanging on to outdated things that, in my mind, aren't very secure. And there's a lot of data to show that that's not a very secure way to go. So there's that. That's the first hurdle, right? Is, are you a culture of change? Do you want to adapt new things? Then the second is probably the hardest one to overcome, which is budget. Do you have the ability to do everything at once? Or is this going to be something that happens over time? More often than not, it's over time because of budget. And that means you have a bunch of different systems that have been kind of pieced together or Frankenstein together, where you're using a lot of different systems, and some are outdated and some are new, meaning they're not going to talk very well to one another. And so if you want the newer smart technology that's out there and how organizations are going to be utilizing them, those are kind of really, in my mind, the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome right out of the gate. But once you get, obviously it's a newer facility, it's going to have the newest technology, it's going to have the space for the technology, they're going to design it that way, and it's going to be great. But for an existing facility or an existing building, they really have to make it a priority. And so someone asked, what is the ROI for things like video management and things like that? And the ROI is, number one, it's going to save you a ton of time. It's going to help reduce risks and people trying to access your facility in a way that they shouldn't. Having that smart detection that Cooper was talking about, if somebody's walking in with green shoes or somebody's robbed a bank at one place, now we have their ability there. Same thing with access control. We can have that information, and those notifications, I think, was a word that Cooper used that I love, because we're all about notifications. And as I mentioned, face recognition, it's going to make notifications even faster and quicker and easier to be able to notify the people that need to be notified or initiate lockdowns even quicker. And that ultimately, that ROI is priceless at the end of the day. That's going to save a ton of money. It's going to save a ton of issues, risks, loss that you don't want to have to deal with. And so technology is only helping just protect what is most important to communities, to facilities, whether it's people, assets, whatever it is that they need to protect, money that's in a bank, for that example as well. So that's really where I'm seeing the biggest challenges, is people are just kind of stuck in their ways, or they don't have the money to do it. But ultimately, once they can make that adoption, the ROI is well worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to just chime in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You first.
No, I want to hear what you have to say, Cooper, because I think it's going to be better. Go for it.
No, look. Kyle nailed that one, and I want to add for James here as well as Noelani. Look,
Yeah.
budget's always a concern. The ROI is always a concern, and so I just want to hit from the Eagle Eye perspective. One of the things that we touched upon this earlier, but that we always tout is Eagle Eye is an open company, and we're open in two different ways. We're open by, number one, we work with any camera that's out there. You have cameras from 1986 that are analog and haven't come to the digital world. We can work with that camera. We have more than 7,500 supported models, and any industry standard camera that's been made in the last 10 plus years is going to be compatible and work with our system. So one of the things that Eagle Eye does from a budgeting and kind of ROI standpoint is we understand that budget cycles are difficult. One of the things that we do to keep budget concerns down and to make it easy when you already have a legacy system is we are not a rip and replace your old system company. We are a company that says, look, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you bought 50 cameras and it was a boatload of money. Keep those cameras. They work fine. Let's just get them using some of the newer technology with our video management system behind the scenes. So another thing that we do, we build AI in the cloud so that when you take advantage of keeping those legacy cameras that you already had from a previous system, you can now enhance and make those dumb cameras smart because of AI in the cloud. The second aspect of being open is we're an open provider that partners with companies like Salto and others from an integration standpoint. So as you have legacy systems, you can choose to say, well, I need to replace 2 cameras, but not all 50. Great, go ahead and replace 2 cameras. You are managing a facility. The world of new companies and AI-driven companies and how fast they are launching and getting funding and blowing up. I mean, who heard of OpenAI 2 years ago? And now they're one of the most valuable companies on the planet, right? And they're in their infancy. So the point I'm making is if, as a facilities manager, if there is a new, cool, exciting thing, and maybe it's weapons detection that you have to walk through before you enter the building. Kyle's got your access, I've got your video, and that's a new solution that you want to implement. Great. You want to work with open companies that are willing to freely distribute their API to those new companies and allow them to build integrations quickly. So when that occurs, we don't charge the end customer to write the integration. We don't charge the other manufacturer to write the integration, and we don't charge you to use the integration. The old world is that you would have to convince a manufacturer, 2 manufacturers to get together. Somebody would have to fund the integration. Somebody would have to fund the certification of that integration. And then using older on-premise technology, when they came out with a new version of that software a year later or a year and a half, guess what? Somebody's paying again to recertify that integration, or you lose support. And so from an end customer standpoint in that old scenario, you got timing, you're waiting a year to get your new technology integrated to your larger system. That's a problem. You have to pay for the integration from a company like Kyle's or myself's. And then you also have to pay for the other technology. We can simplify that. And so when I see that question on legacy systems, I just want to passionately tout that this is really about giving you the ability to keep what works well for you, to save money where it makes sense. And ultimately, the last thing that I will mention is this legacy system budget conversation. We have had so much at Eagle Eye Networks that last year we actually rolled out a completely new pricing option for all of our end customers and our resellers. And that is a completely OpEx model. So gone are the days at Eagle Eye Networks where you spend a lot of money up front, get a license for something, and you've basically paid for it, and it doesn't really get much better after that point. Yeah. And we now live in a world where if the equipment that you need to purchase, if you need to purchase that equipment, is too much for your CapEx budget, then we allow you to lease that equipment reduce that upfront charge by 90+%, and simply operationalize your security budget. What I want everybody to hear here is, if you are thinking about something like that, I'm telling you that our end customers have been fighting for this for the last 5 years, and we happily rolled this out last year. But we have probably the fastest growing purchasing option at our company is people choosing to do what we call Eagle Eye Complete, which is simply a reduced PO amount, and it gives you the ability to pay monthly to get a lifetime warranty and have the equipment replaced for the rest of time without concern. The goal for that is so that you as a facilities manager can go back to the people that manage your budget and say, look, this isn't a big one-time thing that we got to figure out and plan a year and a half in advance. This is going to be a small upfront cost. And then we've simply operationalized things so that, you know, regardless of equipment failures or any problem or any warranty, equipment fails, it's replaced without cost, other than labor, okay? And it's just an operationalized budget that you can expect to pay this much per month or per year for the rest of time. It's absolutely been something that people have just gone wild for, because it convinced me that security is different than you turning the lights on, right? It's a charge that you have to pay monthly.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear about that, you know, that conversation that we were just having. Kyle, you were talking about both the budget and some of those difficult conversations that happen, ways that can be addressed, tools in place now, programs in place now to help kind of bolster and improve odds of these integrations happening. You also talked about culturally some of these changes taking place. And I think this is something both of you are probably in regular conversation with throughout your conversations with customers and other people in the industry. Kyle, let's talk a little bit about that cultural piece and maybe just the onboarding or the stakeholder kind of communications that should also be part of some of these big decisions and integrations across the system.
Yeah, one thing that I always try to talk about is, and whether I'm selling Salto or just saying, find a solution that works for you. What I always try to put out in front of the end user, especially the decision makers, is who do you want to be working with for the longevity of your solution for? Because there's some that, you know, can be very budget friendly. There's some that can be very quality. There's some that are going to be hard to make orders through, some that are going to be very easy. And so it's really vetting out the solution that works best for you is really, really key. And really what I say, like whether you choose Salto or not, make sure that you find a solution that works for your organization. And then I think one of the important questions that needs to be asked, and Cooper hit on this as well, is how well do they work with other solutions? Do they have open AI? Do they not? You know, is their API very friendly, and is it easy to write integrations with? And how well do they play with other solutions out there? And finding quality, finding usability, finding a solution that's always evolving and growing, those are the important things culturally that you really have to address. And you know, we're very similar, where we can use a lot of the infrastructure for a legacy system, where we can try to utilize what we can to save money. But then also, if you're talking about technology, there are things that are going to need to be updated if you want that newest technology out there. So that could be something that's scalable over time. And that's one of the things I do love about Salto, is our solution is very scalable, and you don't have to make big changes to scale, and it can work within your budget over a time period that works for you, so that you can start to make improvements in areas that are maybe your biggest concern or your biggest risks. And then over time, you can start adding in other areas that are almost nice to haves, or just things down the road that you're planning and budgeting for. And so that's really my biggest thing culturally, is who do you want to be working with, and who are they working with at a larger scale, so that you're in a great relationship, because ultimately that's what it is. We're working together all the time. We're coming on site, we're working with you, we're helping you expand, we're showing you new technology that's out there. And you want to be able to call me up and say, hey, this is working well, what's new, what's out there, here's the issues that we're having, you know, and how do I respond in solving those things? And so just make sure, that's my biggest advice to anyone in those decision makers, is I want to work with you, but I want to make sure it's a good fit for you first before we go down that road. So,
yeah. then you've got, so the decision is made, it's moving forward, then you've got your team, then you've got your, basically your onboarding aspect of it. Cooper, how do you address that user education, that adoption with some of the newer tools, some of the systems that you're talking about? I know there's a lot of intuitive aspects to AI. I mean, like you said, we all have our phone with our apps, we bank online, we do all these things. But when it comes to something specific like this, let's talk a little bit about that education and learning curve.
Yeah, look, training and education is huge. Kyle would say the same thing here. You go, somebody goes to implement a system and takes shortcuts and doesn't learn it and doesn't implement it properly. They're going to be dissatisfied with the system. So nobody on our end or the resellers that we work with, high five when they get a PO from you and say, "Great, job's done. Let's go golfing." It really is no. This is a world where we have to, as manufacturers, we have to earn your business month after month, right? Year after year. When you live in a subscription model and understand that you're paying for newer systems where it's not exactly an upfront purchase and then nothing after that, that's a reminder every month that if you're not getting everything you need out of the system, you're going to cancel, right? So we are well aware of that. We, from a manufacturer standpoint, I mean, we've literally implemented the concept of customer success teams in a world of SaaS, right? Software as a service.
Yeah.
You got to earn business day in and day out. So we literally have staff that work with our end customers and have touch points. We try to say, we want to know your system just like you do. Hey, we're calling you up. This camera historically has not been offline, and we noticed it's now offline. Are you aware of that, right? So it's training, it's education, it's working with the resellers. But the bigger piece, and I'll go back to this, is we're fundamentally not just training on the use of a system anymore. We're training on the concept that AI can turn that system into so much more than cameras. And so that's the piece that I want people thinking. You are now going to learn, implement, and get used to the system that you're using, or if you've got a new one. But what we really want to do is we're training our resellers, our integrator, and our partners to have these conversations with end users that are completely different than they used to be. Again, It's not about how many doors and readers and cameras. It's about what are the biggest problems that you need to solve. And if we can get our end customers to educate us on the problems that they're facing, independent of security, there may be a way that AI, through your manufacturer, can actually solve those problems that are non-security related. So 2 parts of education: learning the system and learning how to talk about and solve problems in this new world of AI can be built to, or trained to do anything.
Yeah. I'm just going to note, I just took a look at our time. We've got some time left. I've got a few more questions that are coming in to our audience. You've been asking wonderful questions so far and already, but please, if you have anything that's lingering that you want to get in front of Cooper or Kyle, do it now so we have time to get to you. We've been talking a little bit about that, the end user, the stakeholder, and the teams side of things. Kyle, I'd like to hear from you about some of the additional breakthrough security technologies. Where are these teams going to be impacted next? What are we going to see, or what do you think we're going to see in near term, let's say in the next year or so, that can really benefit and further enhance what we've talked about today in terms of that security component?
Yeah, I think as far as enhancing goes, ultimately, it's just creating a user-friendly experience so that it's a lot easier to understand the system in place, because we do have a lot of turnover in this generation. People aren't, like my grandfather worked at the same place his entire career. Now careers are 3, 5, years. So you do have that transitioning period. So technology needs to be easier to understand so that training is easier. So really where we're seeing the breakthrough security technology is, number one, how easily can I adapt to understand this technology? So we want to make sure that it's very, very easy there. Really big on reducing false positives. I mentioned that earlier, where we're using AI to reduce those false positives and improve that user experience so that it is seamless on basically how they're going throughout their day. They're not having to do unique things. I could walk up to a door, it picks up my face and ultimately just unlocks it, and not even have to touch the door. So going back to that touchless experience. But again, I'm not having to do anything unique. I'm not having to stand in front of a camera too long. I'm just walking up and the door opens up for me right away. And then again, I did mention this earlier, but that multi-module biometrics combining both secure authentication metrics that are being utilized by physical and digital technology, so that you have basically a guaranteed security that you're looking for when somebody's trying to gain access, is really, really important. But then for us, we're all about creating that ecosystem. And I mentioned that we're a little bit of a disruptor in the industry because we wanted to make it easier. If you identify a problem, you don't have to go like, well, they manufacture this part and somebody else manufactures that part, and where's the issue and where do we troubleshoot this? We wanted to make it easy as possible so that you just call Salto. If it's access control or if it's cameras, you call Eagle Eye, and you know exactly where the pain points are and what the issues are that you want to solve. And it's not a guessing game. And that makes it really easier for the end user and who's the facility managers that are operating these systems to identify problems and just move a lot quicker, because you do have to move quicker. So those are kind of the things that, I mean, breakthrough technology, it's all about, again, touchless systems that are easy to use and systems that are adapting to new technologies that work well with each other. That's the future, and that's where trends are going. They want those user-friendly systems, but they still want that high level of security. And that's what we're moving towards at the end of the day, is just creating that whole system that connects, talks, so that you can get those notifications and you can use that data that's just at a benefit to your facilities and communities. So quick answer, but that's kind of where we're going.
Yeah, it just sounds to me like it's a whole new realm of possibility. We just, personally speaking, we just came back from our NFMT Remix event last week in Orlando. I was not stunned, but I was pleasantly surprised at the level of attendance around our digital AI and automation themed sessions. There's a lot of interest there. The other thing I saw is I saw more new and emerging facility professionals in those seats. They have, I think, a higher level of tech literacy than a lot of people maybe from my generation. So it's really interesting to see these two pieces kind of come together, both the comfort with technology in these current FMs that are entering the field, as well as the technology itself that offers so much flexibility and so much possibility. Cooper, I want to ask you about trends that you're seeing with, I mean, we've been talking a lot about what AI is bringing to building security and facility management. We even had a question come in here about, can cameras be utilized on roller coaster tracks to maybe identify potential issues with restraints or anything happening to a rider in that moment? I mean, it sounds like, the sky's the limit, but where are you seeing some of those integration or some of those innovations and trends happening?
Yeah, I mean, I hit on a few of them, but Wendy, look, the phrase you closed with there is the sky is the limit. Okay. So yeah. William, I want to address your question a little bit. William comes in and says, hey, can cameras be utilized in the infrared spectrum to monitor roller coaster track or even monitor guests on the track with AI for potential safety concerns, like a guest coming out of a restraint, right? Yeah. That is not outside the world of possibility going forward, right? We can, again, with the right scenario, understanding the amount of time that it's going to take, and that getting to the right level of accuracy, what you just described is a doable thing today, right? It's just a matter of training AI, working with a provider that has the ability to do that, and then ultimately getting it to a point of accuracy where you are satisfied. All of the things that we're talking about become a seesaw of understanding, am I going to get all the notifications and understand that sometimes I'm going to get false alarms? And then I don't want to use the system because that's all noise and nuisance? Or do I want to go higher accuracy, less alerts, but then do I potentially miss something, right? That's the balance that we're doing. So the sky is the limit in terms of what we can do. But what you just described with that question, William, is something that can be created. Honestly, what's going to happen from here, from my perspective, is we're going to step into a world where there are two ways to solve problems in the future. And the first one is identifying specific pain points like William just did with the roller coaster example, and working with a manufacturer that could build that solution. The second is, I believe, and I might be tipping my hat here and previewing the future, companies like Eagle Eye are going to give you the capability from within your video management system to start training and building your own AI. And so AI will give you the capability to say, hey, can I take a look at the last 2 days and see if the line for this roller coaster got longer than this period? That's the type of thing where I think you're going to see this shift, is more capability to build your own custom AI by working with partners that have built the model for you to use. Okay, yeah. That's what I think the trends will be. But it's just going to be more and more use cases and examples of things that needed to be solved. Like I mentioned, check fraud or catalytic converter theft. Yep. You name the problem, we can now build the solution for it. And that's what's cool about this industry and where we're going with AI now at the kind of the precipice of technology.
It's exciting to think about where everything's going. I hope you will both come back and talk with us again. I don't think it'll be long before we'll have even more updates, innovations, and exciting new technologies to talk about. So thank you, everybody. We're almost out of time. I am going to ask you to one more thing. We've been talking about what's possible, where we can go, what's available right now, conversations our attendees today should be having with their own teams and with their own leadership. Kyle, let me start with you. Where should our attendees go next? What's the next step in their discovery journey here as it comes to some of these opportunities within securing their facilities and ensuring highest levels of access control?
Yeah, so when it comes to Salto, somebody like myself, I focus just on the healthcare industry. So we basically are in every vertical that's out there and every industry that's out there. So coming to us, we're really here to support you and answer those questions as an industry leader. So whether it's hospitality, whether it's multifamily spaces, we're here to answer those questions and talk about use cases and really just more on the education than on the sales side. So we are a great resource at Salto to help answer those questions, talk about where you want to go and what's the most important need at your current facility for access control and what does that look like. So we are the ideal resource for you. So come to us. You can access us through our website. Just pick an industry that you want to focus on, because again, we're in every industry, and then we're going to reach out to you to set up those meetings to answer those questions. So that's really the ideal place to start for us.
Great. Thank you for that, Kyle. Cooper, I'd love to hear your advice for our audience. Where to next for us?
Yeah, no problem. I'll keep it short because we got 1 minute. So look, what I would direct you to is, if you are currently working with the security provider that manages your system today, talk to that company about Eagle Eye Networks and express some interest, or let them know that you're interested in learning more. If you would prefer to come direct to us, you can go to EEN.com. That's just EEN.com. And you can inquire there, and we'll get you in touch with somebody that can talk you through things and either pull in your security integrator or offer up another one if that's a desire. So we don't care, but that's probably the best way to go forward from my perspective.
That's two great pieces of advice. I'm going to add a third. Everybody on the call today, check out our related content module below. It's right there on your screen. We have information there for you from both Salto and Eagle Eye. We want to make sure you take advantage of that information resource, grab it and go. And remember, we're also going to archive this conversation at facilitiesnet.com/webcast. Come back, check things out. Hear again what we've covered today. I know we've covered a lot of ground, so we want to make sure you have routes back to this information. Take advantage of it. I'd like to thank you both, Kyle and Cooper, for an excellent conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure and very exciting to hear what's happening in our tech world and how the FM community, frankly, is really poised to benefit in a very big way from these technologies. And I want to thank especially Eagle Eye Networks and Salto Systems for their sponsorship and support so that we can bring this conversation to light and bring it in front of our audience today. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Thank you for your excellent questions. Have a great rest of your day. And that'll conclude today's webcast.
Thank you.